After a hugely disappointing domestic season for Manchester United, it was Bilbao or bust last night. They went all in on their European adventure, but came up short against a dogged defensive masterclass from Ange Postecoglou's Spurs side. So, what does it all mean for one of the world's biggest football clubs? And can Ruben Amorim turn the Reds around? They'll now face a year with no European football and, crucially, miss out on the lucrative treasure chest that comes with that. So Amarim, still fairly new to the job, has a misfit of players in his squad and could now struggle to rebuild over the summer. And could the owners, much derided by United fans after 20 years of hands-off management, make further redundancies at the club? Well, joining me now is Pete Donaldson from the Football Ramble podcast. Pete, a massive disappointment. Where does Amarim go from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about Ruben and whether he wants to stick to that sort of dogmatic style of playing football, you imagine. Furthermore, I think the hierarchy at Manchester United wanting to stick with Ruben Amorim, they basically said as much. They're going to be giving him 100 million to spend. I think they're basically saying to the Man United fans that they're kind of responsible for putting him in too early in the middle of the season. Ruben didn't want it. At that time, he wanted a close season with his charges and he wanted to spend some time to sort of really drill a certain kind of football into that squad. He came highly rated from anyone on nodding terms of the Portuguese league for both this kind of systematic or systemic tactical qualities he has, but also his temperament as well, his man management. He's barely been able to keep himself from almost openly weeping in most of the press conferences about the lack of quality, his injuries, and also the performances as well. Right now, he's playing in a style that kind of encourages teams to press and press and press, which he really can't sustain across this squad. He's got one of the worst Premier League records in the competition's history, worse than Paul Jewell at Derby, and that needs to change right now, and it really needs to change quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, he's broken a lot of unwanted records, hasn't he? One of the lowest points tallies of a United manager in the Premier League, one of the lowest win records, if not the lowest. How much tolerance will the fans have for this? And, you know, he's going to get some money to spend in the summer transfer window. Do you think that'll be enough? Will he be able to turn it around when he gets the players he wants, do you think?
Well, he could have had a lot more. I mean, they're going to have to conduct their business next season £100 million down, by all accounts, because they couldn't get past the side who lost 21 times in the league, in the Europa League final. I mean, not having Europe will help, I think. He's wanted time with the players, as discussed, but this might help. But it's Manchester United. A manager needs to be able to walk and chew gum. They need to be able to sort of operate on a, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday, Sunday again kind of situation. You need to be able to get your style of play across as quick as you can. They're going to have to sell to buy. That's been made very clear by the fair play rules. But I don't think anyone's going to be massively excited by Rasmus Højlund and Xerxes and stuff. They kind of need finished products at this point. They can't be doing another season where he's forced to push Harry Maguire up top to get a lucky header at the death of football matches. He needs older players, in my opinion, and they're not going to make much money out of the players they have got. Marcus Rashford will probably take a little bit of money in. Anthony, Jadon Sancho as well. I just don't think they're going to get the sort of money they're going to need to do the rebuilding that squad needs.
So you talked a little bit about it there. There's going to be some comings and goings over the summer. Who do you reckon, Pete, is on their way out the door? We've heard rumours Bruno Fernandez, the United captain, may be on his way out. And who do you think Amarim is going to want to get in to implement his style?
I think his style is key. As discussed, he's got a dogmatic approach to football, and if he is going to insist on, not playing really promising youngsters like Menu, and he's going to play really talented Portuguese legendary footballers really deep in the shape of Bruno Fernandez, he's in a little bit of trouble, I think. And obviously, the big ones going out of the club that kind of nailed on are your Sanchos, your Antonys, and your Marcus Rashford. Obviously, Anthony having a great time where he's ended up, and you'd be hoping to get north of the 60 to 70 million out of those sales, hopefully, depending on contractual negotiations. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that Manchester United are stuck because they need goals and they need players who've got a bit of Premier League experience. There's big talk of Cunha from Wolves and Delat from Ipswich, but you got to remember that this generation of footballers don't remember Alex Ferguson's incredible side from the 90s. They don't have any European football to offer. A lot of footballers who really need it at that stage in their career. So Man United simply aren't the draw that they once were. So it's going to take like danger money to get some people into that footballing side, and that's kind of not how Ratcliffe runs his operations.
Yeah, absolutely nice Portuguese pronunciation of Bruno Fernandez, by the way.
Yeah,
But
I've been taught very well.
I guess on Ratcliffe, that's another question a lot of people will have. Are these problems bigger than Amarim? Are they bigger than the manager? I mean, there's been a lot of criticism of the way Ratcliffe's run the club, sacking some of the lower salary workers. Yeah, essentially, are these problems bigger than Amarim, do you think? Can you go into a bit of detail on Ratcliffe?
I think once you start taking the perks of the job away from people who work backroom at a football club, bearing in mind you're not really paid the going rate if you work in like security or work, I don't know, around the Old Trafford, the crumbling Old Trafford Stadium. And when you're sort of forcing them to get on a bus to get away from Bilbao to get a really, really late flight because you can't afford to put people up in hotels, or if you're sort of taking away people's, computers and all that stuff, you're in a situation where you are taking the romance out of the club and people will not want to work for you. So I think it's one of those situations that Manchester United, because of the state they're in, they're having to overcompensate with their wages on the field, but obviously they're trying to nickel and dime everything off the field. And for me, that's going to make it a very unattractive proposition for either the footballers who are going to play non-European fixtures this season, or people who are joining the club because they have a real love for Manchester United. If there's no respect for the backroom people, there's no respect for the entirety of the brand. So I don't know, the Lily's losing gild pretty much every second of every day at Old Trafford. It's sad to see, really.
So I saw Amarim, he paid for the flights and travel of a few staff members' family to go over to Bilbao for the final, didn't he? And I think Eric Cantona and a few United legends offered to chip in as well.
Right.
Do you think that sort of Amarim doing that, is that sort of a type of protest against the leadership? Do you think Ratcliffe will have much tolerance for things like that?
It's certainly a bold move, and you would probably imagine it's indicative of a wider problem if the manager's having to go into his back pocket to make sure that people are delivered safe and sound to and from football matches. One of the most important football matches in Manchester United's history. It just seems like it's a real shame. And yeah, like you say, it probably is a sort of in the same way that he's putting Harry Maguire up top, in the same way that Harry Redknapp used to do just before a transfer window back in the day, basically saying to the chairman, I need reinforcements and I need them now. I am threadbare. He's probably saying and sending a message to Sir Jim Ratcliffe that this isn't good enough and this isn't the Manchester United that he probably thought he was joining.
So there were rumours of a Qatari takeover before Ratcliffe came into the fold. Do you think a lot of fans would have preferred sort of deep-pocketed owners like the Qataris coming in when they're seeing Ratcliffe come in, not spend the money they want to see spent, and doing things like sacking lower-wage workers at the club?
Well, I think Manchester United are at such a trajectory now that they will, in the next few years, be unable to pay the sort of money that they're even paying now for footballers simply due to financial fair play. My own football team, Newcastle United, I mean, be careful what you wish for. There's no guarantee that having a massively, in a huge way, problematic benefactor is definitely going to make sure your football team is going to guarantee success. I think with the Qataris coming in at Manchester United, there's no guarantee that would work. And also the brand is shrinking at a time where Manchester United need to spend upwards of 200, 300 million to get this football team back on track. So I don't think it would be any more of a guarantee of success of what Ratcliffe's got. I think Ratcliffe at times have talked quite knowledgeably. I mean, he has to be, he's the chairman, but he's talked quite intelligently about the struggles and challenges that Manchester United have. But to see what he's been doing off the field, I just think it's turned the football team into something that's just not as an attractive a proposition for most footballers wanting to join.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk. I mean, Ronaldo, in that famous interview he gave before he left the club, talked about how the training facilities, Carrington, they desperately needed an overhaul and an upgrade. Are we going to see that from Ratcliffe? And then obviously there's been talks of the new stadium as well. What are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, that big sort of circus tent monstrosity the blueprints for that they've put out certainly looked incredibly aggressively kind of careeristic and sort of I mean, it looked good. I mean, I'm quite excited at the whole spectacle of it, but I think at this point in time, why you'd want to saddle yourself to the next 10 years of being even more difficult than it is now, in the same way that the Arsenal stadium move was really, really difficult for them from Anfield to the Emirates. I don't know why you would saddle Manchester United in this particular situation. You need to get it right on the field first, grow the brand back to where it needs to be, start to be that kind of Champions League bothering sort of club that's in the positions that Newcastle United and Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa are in at the moment. Get back to there and then start to decide to fix up and look sharp the Manchester United stadium proposition, because admittedly it's crumbling, but it's still standing. And as long as they fix that big waterfall, it could be good for the next 5 years. They just got to get it right on the pitch first.
So yeah, get it right on the pitch first. 12 years since a Premier League title. What is it, about 17 years since a Champions League for them? What do you think's gone so wrong in that time? I mean, we've seen Arne Slot come in at Liverpool and immediately win the Premier League in his first season. Why has the Sir Alex Ferguson period succession been essentially a disaster?
I think hindsight is 2020. I think looking back, I think if you were going to choose a sort of failure point, I would have said there's probably an argument to have given David Moyes a little bit more time in the hot seat. You look at how Arteta has kind of turned around his side, obviously not winning the league, but certainly going very deep in some really, really decent competitions in this form of the Premier League itself and the Champions League, obviously. It's been a really strange sort of 10 years for anyone who sort of grew up watching Manchester United doing what they did under Sir Alex Ferguson, seeing how they've sort of flip-flopped. They've overspent on footballers in the wrong positions. They've bought footballers on reputation rather than fitting into the system that they needed. And more than anything else, I think most Manchester United fans would probably say there's a canny few too many dividends leaving the club and loans rather than actually money being invested in the club, and that people are going to the city rather than their own pockets to get the money out to furnish their squad. So it's a mixture of about 3 or 4 things. But if I was going to pinpoint one particular situation, I'd have given David Moyes another season personally.
It's interesting what you said earlier about the brand shrinking. I mean, it used to be one of those things you could go to a village anywhere in the world where people don't speak any English, but they'd know the words Manchester United. It was such an iconic and prestigious brand. How important is that? And what do United need to do to resurrect that brand?
Well, I mean, I talk about my club, Newcastle United, how difficult it's been. They've had to kind of, really, brace themselves at the corners and sections of how you kind of furnish your squad with money that you simply can't spend simply because of the fair play rules. I think with Manchester United being one of those clubs that everybody knew back in the 90s and everybody knew right into the noughties, it's just getting more and more difficult for them to get footballers to join their sides, because the new brands are the noisy neighbours next door, Man City. The new brands, people want to play a good football at Arsenal. They'd even probably want to play better football at Newcastle United, my own side. Or maybe Manchester United at this moment in time is probably seen as one of those kind of mid-table concerns who on any given season might win an FA Cup, but certainly won't be qualifying for Europe off their league position anytime soon. I've said it before, it's a real shame.
So are there any signs of hope, Pete? How soon do you think fans can realistically hope to see more success again?
Well, I mean, I think they are going to have less football to play next season, so that might actually help Ruben Amorim. I think they have got a couple of really, really good young players, but they really do need to be able to give Ruben the kind of squad that fits his 3 at the back, bombing on sort of wing back dream, really. and so he can start to kind of bed in a few more young players. I think that's the only way they're going to get through. I think they probably need to look at the goalkeeping situation as well, because the goalkeeper has been, chaotic. I mean, he's a great character for the neutral, but I think they probably, if they can get the goalkeeper situation right, and maybe get some defenders who can fit that sort of three at the back system a little better, they might be sort of rushing up the table quicker than we think, because I think teams like Nottingham Forest, teams like Bournemouth, they sort of really fell away, and Manchester United do have a little bit of authority and a little bit of prestige that a lot of people around that club have seen them go quite deep into competitions. And at the end of the day, at the end of a Premier League season, it is all about momentum. It is all about getting win after win after win. And I think Manchester United are one of those clubs that you could see doing that, but bringing some momentum into the end of the season. But teams like Nottingham Forest, you can see how they've fallen away because they just don't have the experience doing it.
Absolutely. I guess the other issue with recruiting people in is United have cultivated a bit of a reputation as being a club that almost destroys players, haven't they? I mean, you think of Di Maria, Jadon Sancho. If there's young players who are hot prospects, are they really going to want to come to Man United?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that Shaw and Bruno kind of defend their manager, I do think he's still got a lot of respect. So that's probably a foundation you can sort of build on. But I do kind of feel sorry for some of the younger players who, by right, should not have to have spent so much time, playing up top by themselves and having to put in performances of like a 28 or 29-year-old. I do feel sorry for some of the younger players who are now finding themselves in the transfer window, being very, very available indeed, simply because they're not they're quite young, and people like Rasmus Højlund, they're not finished products, and they needed a little bit of time to bed in the Premier League. And I just felt really sorry for players like that who are probably going to be leaving the club in the summer. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's because the rest of the team is so desperate that they found themselves so important and so necessary in the side.
And also the Academy, United's famed for being a club that brings through so many brilliant young players through the Academy. How much will these off-pitch dramas and the Ratcliffe situation impact that, do you think? I mean, we've seen Kobbie Mainoo, obviously, which is encouraging, I suppose.
Well, when he could get in the side, I think if you can't build your team around one of the most promising youngsters, internationals in Premier League and European football, I don't know what you're really doing, to be honest. I think they do have this hard-won, long-fought, great relationship with their what has historically been a superb youth squad. So I do think there are green shoots in that area, but I think most Manchester United fans would probably say that they'd want to see a bit more of them and see them in a side that is befitting the Manchester United brand, the Manchester United shirt, and just give them a bit more support, because throwing them in for 20 minutes at the end of a match when you're 2-0 down, it's no good for anyone. It's no good for anyone's development.
And in terms of your predictions for next season, Pete, who do you see winning the league, and what do you think would be a realistic aim for Man United next season? Where do you see them finishing?
I think Pep Guardiola will continue as Manchester City manager, and relying on certain legal aspects going their way. I think they will probably there or thereabouts next season. I think Pep Guardiola, he likes to test himself. I think he's sort of spent a lot of time with Rodri being unfit. It's weird that Rodri is such an important player for a team that is so absolutely minted. It's crazy, but I think having a fit squad and a fit Rodri and some really, really good acquisitions, I think Pep Guardiola will be there or thereabouts at the top for Manchester City, which will be even more galling when Manchester United find themselves in pretty much the place that they are now. I think the teams that are coming up for the last 2 seasons from the Championship have been poor. I don't see any of them doing anything this season that's going to change that. So I think teams like Manchester United and to a lesser extent Spurs after this amazing historic European nights at football. I think they're going to still have that buffer zone to not go down. So West Ham, Manchester United, I think they'll still be where they are now, but hopefully Manchester United will be in a bit better financial position, I think, so that they can rebuild this time next season.
And how much time do you reckon Amarim will be given?
I think all indications are pointing to they are going to give him the next season, unless the wheels go massively off the truck. I think he's going to be here for a little while longer. But I think if they can't fit into this system, if the reinforcements can't fit into what Ruben Amorim expects out of his three at the back, I think they might be in a situation to be looking elsewhere the back end of this season, this time next season, basically.
And just lastly, back to Ratcliffe. Obviously, there was a lot of criticism about the Glazers who own Man United. Glazers out protests. Ratcliffe comes in. Are there any signs that this new leadership structure will bear fruit and actually be a positive in the long run, do you think?
I think the blame is still kind of on the previous stewards, who are obviously, Manchester United fans are not backwards or coming forwards and criticising those guys. And I think he still has a couple of seasons before they really get the knives out for him. I think he speaks well about the club. I think he knows that they can't just keep throwing money at these footballers. They can't just keep losing so much money, loaning players out for season upon season when it hasn't worked under their, third manager over two campaigns. So I think the way that he carries himself, I think the Manchester United fans will give him a little bit more rope. But again, if it doesn't get better season after next, I think there'll be. I think Manchester United have been in a transitional season for the last sort of 10 years. It feels like, and it's a very alien concept. I think for anyone who grew up watching them being very good indeed.
Absolutely. Well, let's see if they can turn it around. Pete Donaldson from the Football Ramble podcast. Thanks so much. Great to speak to you, Pete.
Thank you.